Manchester United are linked with a last-minute move for a 17-year-old wonder kid. Juventus withdraw from the race for Jadon Sancho as his asking price gets dropped, and Ugarte will make the bench for the Liverpool clash at the weekend. This plus all the latest Manchester United news and transfer news that will keep you right up to date with everything. Welcome to Man United Review. My name's Jamie. Before we get into it, please smash a like on the video and let's jump into it. So, obviously, deadline day today is going to be frantic. There's been loads of updates over the last 24 hours, so I'm going to bring you who said what. And we're going to go through all of the latest and then see what we can expect for the remainder of the transfer window before it closes at 11 p.m. tonight. So let's kick off with Ugarte. So Duncan Castles had something really interesting to say yesterday that I wanted to bring to you. So he said PSG's negotiation team told United during the discussions that they did not want to lose Ugarte and they were only selling because Luis Enrique wasn't using the player to the extent that they would have liked and the player was pushing for a move. PSG expected him to be one of Manchester United's best player down the line. And then Duncan Castles also said that whether United's recruitment team believed that or not, I think it was actually genuine from PSG's end. So Duncan Castle with a really interesting update about Ugarte, basically saying that the people at the club didn't want to sell him. They only sold him because Luis Enrique wasn't planning to play him and he wants to play a different style of play that doesn't utilise Ugarte's strengths. And because Ugarte himself was pushing for the deal. And that kind of ties in with a story that was... I think it was from David Ornstein that I bought the other day that said that people within the club see Ugarte as one of the best young midfielders in the world. So there must be something in the player. But I thought that was a really interesting update. Duncan Castle's been fairly credible this window. He's normally a hit and miss journalist, but he's been spot on with a lot of his transfer news. So yeah, let me know what you think about that in the comments. And then, obviously, we're all waiting for the signing of Ugarte, which is expected to happen today because he's passed all his medicals and that was brought out to you yesterday. Sky Sports, it said Manchester United confident Manuel Ugarte will be registered by midday on Friday to be available against Liverpool. James Stucker from the Telegraph said Manuel Ugarte to Manchester United and McTominay to Napoli, all more likely to be finalised or announced tomorrow than today as things stands. That was yesterday news, so he's saying that it's going to be announced today. And then Samuel Lucas this morning has come out saying that Manuel Ugarte won't start this weekend due to the relative lateness of his arrival, but expected to be on the bench. Did mention that before because obviously it's a bit of a late deal to get in. It would have been nice if we could have got him at the start of the week, then he could have had a full week's training with the squad, then potentially he could have been in the team for the weekend. But I think, you know, we all get giddy around new signings and new shiny things and want to put them in the team straight away. But you've got to remember that he's not had any pre-season, so he's unlikely to come in and play. That's why I don't think he's been playing De Ligt straight away. That's why I don't think Xerxes been playing. I looked into it. De Ligt last played 90 minutes of football, I think it was in May. And same with Xerxes as well, because yes, they went to the Euros, but they didn't play for Holland in the Euros. So neither of them have had many game minutes. Garnacho, yes, he went to the Copa America, but he didn't play that many minutes for Argentina, which is why he's not starting games, I think, at the moment as well. So you've got to factor that in, that some of these players haven't played 90 minutes of football and you can't expect them to come in and throw them straight into the first team without having played any pre-season games. So it was always unrealistic that Ugarte would start the weekend, but I'd be happy to see him on the bench and then, you know, give him a little cameo at the end, and then hopefully he goes off on the internationals, gets some minutes in his legs and come back and then can be starting to be within the first team squad after the international. But let me know what you think about that in the comments. And then I found this story quite interesting. So this came from the Daily Mail saying that Jadon Sancho was among the options United were exploring in case they failed to secure a deal for Manuel Ugarte. Erik ten Hag is an admirer of the midfielder. 27-year-old Dutch midfielder, plays for PSV. I've not researched loads of him because we're not linked with him, but it looked like a decent profile, very similar profile to Ugarte. Could play in a couple of positions, but I thought I'd bring that in because that maybe would be one to watch for the future, depending on obviously how Ugarte does, but also what happens with the other midfielders, like Casemiro, for example, next summer. If we move him on, then this could be a name that might come up again if that story is to be believed that Eric Ten Hag's a big admirer, so that could be one to watch for the future. Another one that could be watched to watch for the future would be Sekou Kone. So he's currently undergoing his medical check at Manchester United. Deal should be finalised today. He arrived in Manchester on Wednesday night. So that was yesterday. So we're expecting that deal to hopefully get announced today as well. So it could be a double announcement with Kone and Ugarte. And I'm really excited about Kone. I think he's a clever signing. Obviously well scouted. I think it is a scout recommended signing as well, for reading between the lines and reading all the reports and stuff, that this is one that the scouts have recommended because they were really impressed with him at the Under-17 World Cup. It's only £1 million as well, so it's not like it's breaking the bank. It's got a really good profile, looks a really talented, promising player. And I'm all for United going out and taking a chance on these players, because what's the worst that can happen is that he doesn't make it, and even then you might be able to flog him for more than £1 million. So it's a no-brainer for me going out and trying to bring in these young talents, developing them at the club, and just take a chance on them. I don't understand what it's really frustrating actually that we haven't done that over the last few years, because there's been countless examples. As I mentioned in the comments in one of my previous videos as well, when we were discussing this, been countless of examples of players that we've missed out on purely because someone at the club probably because they didn't have enough Instagram followers, or they didn't have enough commercial value to the club, so no one wanted to take the chance and buy them. But actually having football people making football decisions, this is a really smart one for me. And the prime example of that is this next story I'll bring to you. So Duncan Castro said that Rodri was actually recommended to Jose Mourinho at Manchester United, signing in 2017. He subsequently joined Atletico Madrid in 2018 for €20 million. Mourinho went for Matic instead. United refused to pay what was considered a high fee for Rodri at the time. So there's an example of where the scouts or somebody at the club has recommended a player. The club haven't gone for it for whatever reason. Obviously, in that case, they weren't prepared to pay. Well, it would have been like €20 million for Rodri. There's another example. Do you know what I mean? Another one to add to the list of players that we've not taken a chance on for relatively low risk fee. That's gone on to be an absolute baller. So I'm excited about the Kone signing. Let me know what you think about that in the comments. Right, let's move on to Sterling, because obviously the talk of the town at the moment is mainly around Sancho. It looks like it's going to be Sancho Day, and I'll bring you all the updates on that in a second. But one of the options for Sancho is a swap deal with Chelsea involving Raheem Sterling. That's still massively on the agenda, or potentially going for Sterling anyway as a Sancho replacement. So what's been said about Sterling? So Richard Fay, who's a good source, said Raheem Sterling to Manchester United is a deal considered unlikely at this stage. United have discussed the possibility of a loan deal, but unwilling to pay the majority of his enormous wages, which is £300,000 a week, just to remind you. Samuel Lucker said that Manchester United are still mulling over an 11th hour move for Sterling. Talks haven't advanced for a potential swap deal for Sancho. Fabrizio Romano has said that Chelsea still in talks with Manchester United over a potential swap deal with Jadon Sancho. And Raheem Sterling's camp have offered him to Arsenal. Arsenal have confirmed the number they would be willing to offer him in terms of wages, and Raheem is okay with that. It's a tricky deal to complete. I don't know the credibility of that source, but it's an Arsenal source that are meant to be quite credible when it comes to team news and stuff. So, but I don't know the credibility personally. I'm obviously not an Arsenal fan, so I don't know the authenticity of that. So it's still looking like that could be an option, depending. Obviously, there might be a last-minute scramble. There could be a swap deal involving Chelsea. That would depend on what happens with the Juventus and Jadon Sancho, but yeah, it's definitely one that's could potentially go to the wire today. But either way, we're going to know by tonight. But yeah, still a lot of mixed reports regarding Sterling. I've mentioned before, if we do a swap deal with Sancho and Sterling, I don't think we come out of that deal very well. I think Chelsea get the better end of the stick in that deal. That doesn't feel right for me. But if Ineos want to do it, there must be a reason for that, that we can't kind of dismiss, and we're not in control of the football side of things. We're not football scouts and, in the know kind of people when it comes to that decision. There must be something in it if United decide to do it and Ineos decide to do it. So do trust them to make the right decision there. It just doesn't feel right if we do that that swap deal. But if Sancho goes to Juventus or Dortmund or somewhere else, and then we get Sterling in on loan as a replacement, and we don't have to pay his high wages, I'm not against that, to bring in somebody as a rotation, as a backup on loan, can play in multiple positions, can play up front, on the left, on the right, through the middle. Do you know what I mean? I wouldn't necessarily be against that. It doesn't sit right with me, the Chelsea kind of swap situation, but let me know what you think in the comments. Well, let's move on to the Sancho news, because this is the hot topic at the moment. Samuel Lucker said that Manchester United do not expect any more high-profile sales after selling Sancho, which was interesting because, G-Class, Ericsson and Lindelof, because they're the other two to keep an eye on today as high-profile. Maybe not. I think he's on about like Casemiro or, Rashford, these sort of players. Do you know what I mean? I don't think we're going to get any more sales as opposed to Sancho. Sky Sports said that Jadon Sancho is in personal terms discussions with Chelsea and Juventus. There is a feeling he wants to go to Chelsea, and one source even says Chelsea would prefer to buy him permanently. Then we've had Damarcio saying, for now, Jadon Sancho's move to Juventus is on hold. There is little chance of seeing Sancho at Juventus. Now, Damarcio is a credible source. Fabrice Hawken, who's been really credible this summer, said that Chelsea still pushing to Raheem Sterling to Arsenal so they can afford Jadon Sancho. So, according to Fabrice Hawkins, they're suggesting that Chelsea are trying to actually sell Raheem Sterling to Arsenal or move his wages off so they can afford to buy Jadon Sancho. So that's one to keep an eye on. Fabrice Hawkins also said that Jadon Sancho has spoken with Thiago Motta. Sancho and Juventus trying to reach an agreement on salary. Juve management believes this deal is possible. So Fabrice Hawkins saying that, Chelsea are trying to do what they can to potentially buy Sancho, but also Sancho is talking with Juventus about his salary and stuff, which is probably normal because I think it is, between Juventus and Chelsea at the moment, unless there's another team that come in with a last minute swoop. But at the moment, that's not being reported anywhere. So, and then Damarcio said Juventus have withdrawn from the race for Jadon Sancho. And Fabrizio Romano said negotiations between Juventus and Man United on Jadon Sancho are currently in total standby. They consider requests made by United too high and won't proceed at current conditions. It could only change with more sales in the final 24 hours or with a price drop. Now, I read that and I kind of... That's to me, and this is just my thoughts and my opinion, feels a little bit like negotiation tactics that... where Juventus are trying to lower the price, do a last-minute deal. They know we're desperate to remove Sancho, so we are in a bit of a position of weakness when it comes to him. So that did feel a little bit like, to me, like negotiation tactics, where they're saying, no, we're not doing it. We're going to walk away, let United stew about it for like a few hours or an evening, and come back in to see if they can negotiate the deal more favourable for them, but we'll obviously have to see how it develops. Romano also said that Juventus could improve their offer for Jadon Sancho if they sell players in the next 24 hours. This was last night, so obviously if Juventus do sell a player, they might then be able to raise the capital to come back in for Sancho. And the Athletic have said that Manchester United's preference is still to sell Jadon Sancho. He has a valuation of around £25 million, which is a big drop, isn't it? Because we've always been kind of told that United want around £40 million for Jadon Sancho if they are to sell him permanently. But to get his fee now down to 25 million, that's a massive drop. That'll be a massive loss for United on the books when it comes to obviously how much we paid for Jadon Sancho as well. So again, is that negotiation tactics from United just to try and get this player gone? I think they're, reading between the lines, it looks like they do just want to remove Sancho at all costs, whether that's, a loan to Chelsea with an obligation to buy, or a swap deal with Sterling, or to Juventus, dropping his price so clubs can come in and actually buy him. But either way, we're gonna know by tonight. So we need to keep an eye on what happens regarding the Sancho situation. But let me know what you think about the whole situation in the comments. Be interesting to hear your opinions on what you think about Jadon Sancho. Do you think he's going to go to Chelsea? Juventus, do you want to keep him? Would you be happy to sell him for £25 million? Like, there's a lot of kind of stories to go through there. Again, personally, I think some of those stories are just negotiation tactics where teams are playing the transfer game, where they're trying to negotiate prices and threatening to walk away. Like we did it with the De Ligt and Mazraoui deal, didn't we? So we're going to walk away, looking at alternatives. And then same with Ugarte, when we had all the stories coming out around other midfield targets that we were going for, and all of it ultimately was just a game by United and the media and, you know, the negotiation teams or whoever it is. And I kind of feel that way with Sancho. Reading between the lines, it's going to be Chelsea or Juventus at the moment, or potentially he could stay at United as it stands at the time of recording this video. But let me know what you think in the comments. One player who's not going to be coming to United apparently is Amrabat. So Fenerbahce reached an agreement with Fiorentina for the transfer of Sofian Amrabat that came from a very credible Turkish journalist. So that's a last minute deal that looks like we're not going to go and get involved in, is Sofian Amrabat. And then United have also been linked with Nypan, who is a very talented young midfielder. So Manchester United is still interested in Svea Nypan. The player himself is a United fan, but Arsenal also wants to enter the race. No deal is possible before the January transfer window. Now, this came from not the most credible source, I've got to be honest with you. All right, but really interesting option. 17-year-old Norwegian. Has been compared to like Pedri and even Luka Modric. I read some reports regarding him. Obviously linked with a move to Arsenal. Apparently a United fan, if that makes a difference. Again, I read a report saying that one of his idols was Ander Herrera. Really good player, fits the mold of being a young, up-and-coming player, is believed to be one of the best up-and-coming midfielders in Europe. Plays as like an 8, like an attacking 8 almost. Looks really talented. Played against us in pre-season, actually, and looked pretty decent. Can't come at the moment, though, because of Brexit rules. So Brexit rules means that we can't sign players that are under 18. So would be either a buy him, loan him back, and then get him in January, or potentially a January one to look for. But interesting to see whether we're just being used to generate interest, or whether we're being used to, you know, get a little bit more money out of Arsenal. But really talented player. I would be excited to bring in that sort of player. It was similar to what was the player that went to Tottenham? I really rated him. Bergvall went to Tottenham in January. Well, they signed him in January, but they had to loan him back, and now they've got him. Really talented young player. I was actually quite gutted that we missed out on him, because I did a lot of research when we were linked with him in January, and he looks a really, really talented player. So it'll be similar to that, where we would potentially buy him, either loan him back until January or maybe for the season, because he is only young. So they might even send him back on loan, or potentially one to keep an eye out for the future, because we have been linked with him multiple times over the last, well, probably over the last 12 months. So that is you all up to date with the latest Manchester United news and transfer news. Share your thoughts in the comments below. I do enjoy reading them. Smash a like on the video on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you are new, and I will see you in the next one.